Wednesday, September 24th, 1986. Inside the garage of Freedman Express, Inc., located at 5860 Page Place in Maspeth, Queens, New York City, 58-year-old truck mechanic Bruno Bauer arrives for his 5 p.m. shift. At around 7 p.m., Bruno Bauer would be discovered by a coworker, shot dead. He had received 4 bullets to the back of his head. When detectives would arrive to investigate, they would rule out a robbery, since nothing was taken. However, it was clear that it was a targeted assassination. Bruno Bauer was a member of Teamsters Local 707, which represented truck drivers and warehouse workers. In the months prior to his death, Bruno Bauer was filing grievances against his employer. He would contact the National Labor Relations Board and accuse the trucking company of underpaying him and not abiding by the union contract. Furthermore, he would have a violent confrontation with a shop steward upon telling him that he was speaking to authorities. He would contact the National Labor Relations Board, the National Labor's Racketeering Office, and the Association for Union Democracy, an association which founder Herman Benson described as essentially a civil liberties organization that focuses on the rights of the members in their unions to free speech, fair elections, due process and trials, and fair hiring. Bruno Bauer would even appeal directly to the local 707 union officials, who would also deny his grievances. At that time, the president of Local 707 was Anthony Destini, who, according to investigators, quickly and suspiciously rose to the position as president in 1984. For decades prior to his new role at Local 707, Destini was at the helm of Teamsters Local 277, which was the Creamery Workers Union, representing milk truck drivers and others in the dairy industry. He would remain a paid officer of Local 277, even after becoming president of Local 707. Destini would be welcomed with open arms by 15-year Teamsters Local 707 Vice President Nikki Black, Grancio. Nikki Black Grancio's affiliations with Local 707 went back to 1966, when he became a trustee. That same year, he would be convicted of perjury in a New York court. Grancio withheld knowledge from a grand jury concerning union payoffs and so-called sweetheart contracts. He would be handed a 3-year suspended sentence and probation. These charges didn't stop him from becoming vice president in 1969. And by the time of Bruno Bauer's death in 1986, it was well established by law enforcement and the press that Nikki Black Grancio was connected to organized crime and a representative of the Colombo family's interest in labor racketeering. Grancio would be questioned numerous times about Bauer's death. However, nothing would come of it. Months would pass by, and activists and leaders like Herman Benson at the Association for Union Democracy would press hard for an investigation, knowing that Bruno Bauer was taken out because he stepped into dangerous waters. Eventually, the story would fade, and leads would run dry. According to dangerous Colombo mobster and FBI informant Greg the Grim Reaper Scarpa, by the early 1980s, Nikki Black was playing a huge role in the Colombo family. He had become a powerhouse, with an ability to influence various businesses through his position with the Teamsters, and apparently had no problem assisting in making people disappear. In 1982, Greg Scarpa would inform his FBI handlers that Nikki Black Grancio, along with his nephew Joe Tolino, were involved in the murder of 22-year-old John Aratico in April of that same year. John Aratico was a forklift operator who had been employed by Interstate Motor Freight Trucking in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. He would be shot 5 times in the chest at the intersection of 59th Street and 21st Avenue in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. In 1988, when Vic Arena took over as acting boss of the Colombo family, he would promote Nikki Black to the position of captain. In that same year of 1988, the United States would hit the Teamsters with the RICO Act in a civil lawsuit that would claim that the Teamsters were largely controlled by La Cosa Nostra and allege that 26 members of LCN held power positions. The United States government demanded reform. They would send out numerous subpoenas to Teamster officials, including one to local 707 President Anthony Destini and one to Vice President Nikki Black Grancio. In March of 1989, the Teamsters would strike a deal with the United States government. The consent decree would have the RICO case dropped, as long as the Teamsters acknowledged the issues set forth by the government and vowed to clean up the mob's influence, all the while inviting government oversight into their organization. Anthony Destini and Nikki Black Grancio would both step away from Local 707, although some would say they were forced out. James McNeil would go on to become the next president of Local 707, but that didn't stop Nikki Black from continuously being seen at the Union Hall, as well as being seen meeting with the new president, James McNeil, numerous times. In November of 1990, Nikki Black would be exposed as being employed by Wellbounds Supermarkets as a management consultant. Wellbounds was a major supermarket chain in the New York area for many decades, but as of 2015, no longer exists. If you grew up in New York, there's a good chance you've been to one. At that time, their warehouse workers were under the Teamsters Local 707 umbrella. Grancio was outed when an anonymous employee complained about him holding a position after being exposed as a member of organized crime and being removed from his vice president position of 707. The company would have to distance themselves from Grancio. However, Wellbound's vice president Aaron Malinsky would only have kind things to say about Nikki Black. He would state, "I would call him a teacher. He can educate you. He educated me, and he educated our people here how to run a warehouse and how to lead a warehouse full of men and how to treat them fairly and equitably." 1991, the Third Colombo War. The Vicarina faction versus the Persico faction. Nikki Black, an arena loyalist, along with mobsters like Wild Bill Catullo, Joey Scopo, and Vicarina himself, would compete in a civil war against the Persico faction, which consisted of Persico family members and mobsters like Greg Scarpa Jr., Carmine and Michael Sessa, and young guys like Larry Mazza and Jimmy Del Masto. Larry Mazza, who was a Greg Scarpa protege and war participant, would claim in his book, The Life, that Greg, the Grim Reaper Scarpa, informed him that Nikki Black was personally involved in an assassination attempt on his life when he got shot at on December 30th, 1991, in the presence of his daughter and one-year-old grandson. Larry Mazza states that shortly after the attempt on Scarpa's life, Nikki Black passes a message to his uncle, stating that Larry should leave the Persico faction and come over to the arena side, or else he would be hit next. On January 7th, 1992, Greg Scarpa, Larry Mazza, and Jimmy Del Masto are cruising around Gravesend, Brooklyn. They pull over on Lake Road North, right off McDonald Avenue, in order to scope out an arena-friendly Colombo club, located at 2284 McDonald Avenue. After watching for a few minutes, Mazza notices Nikki Black sitting inside his Land Cruiser. "There's Nikki Black," he says. Scarpa replies, "Where? Let's get him." Nikki Black, with his nephew Joe Tolino in the passenger seat, pull across the street from the social club and stop in front of a car service. He then proceeds to Avenue U, makes a left, and circles around back to the proximity of where he was first spotted. Someone walks up to Nikki's car and hands him an envelope. Larry Mazza, Jimmy Del Masto, and Greg Scarpa would soon pull up alongside Nikki Black's Toyota Land Cruiser, equipped with a fake police siren. Mazza states that when Greg Scarpa raises his rifle, he accidentally releases the clip. Scarpa was suffering from AIDS and was becoming clumsy and forgetful. Mazza leans out the window with his shotgun, and according to him, comes within 6 inches of Nikki Black's head before pulling the trigger and ending the life of 64-year-old powerful labor racketeer Nikki Black Grancio. According to Mazza, he could only assume that Nikki Black and nephew Joe Tolino never looked at them because they, in fact, truly thought that they were law enforcement. The death made big news. A major player was taken out, and the Colombo War would rage on. As many of you know, Greg Scarpa was an FBI informant for over 30 years. His relationship with the FBI afforded him numerous privileges. In many ways, it aided in his ruthlessness. On the day of the Nikki Black murder, which occurred on January 7, 1992, Nikki was being surveilled by the FBI and the NYPD. It's alleged that the surveillance team was pulled away from Nikki Black because Greg Scarpa had been in contact with his FBI handler, Lindley Del Vecchio, and through this connection, had the surveillance team pulled away. There is a long list of numerous allegations of a blood pact between Scarpa and the FBI, which involved tips about things like mobsters' current whereabouts, indictments that were in the works, and even allegations of aiding and intel that would lead to the murders committed by Scarpa and his cronies. Maria Grancio, wife of Nikki Black, would attempt to sue the government, claiming they had played a role in the death of her husband Nicholas Nikki Black Grancio, and attempted to use testimony by Larry Mazza, where he mentioned Scarpa being on the phone numerous times during the time of Nicholas Grancio's murder, and even referring to the person he was talking to on the phone as Lynn, which was akin to Agent Lindley Del Vecchio's name. She would allege that Lindley Del Vecchio and Christopher Favo, both FBI special agents at the time of the murder, conspired with each other and with Scarpa to bring about Grancio's death. The case would soon be dismissed, due to Maria Grancio's inability to produce sufficient admissible evidence. Now let's head over to Gravesend, Brooklyn, and check out where it all went down. The death of Nicholas Nikki Black Grancio on January 7th, 1992.
All right, everybody, we are in Gravesend, Brooklyn. And if you watched the little part before this, well, you know why we're here. Because we're heading to the spot where in 1992, January 7th to be exact, 1992, Nicholas Nikki Black Grancio is shot dead. Now that happens up the block from a social club at 2284 McDonald Avenue. And according to the website Cosa Nostra News, which I'll link to this, that social club was apparently called the Fifth Corner Club, under the control of Nikki Black. A lot of noise. Let's see what's going on over here. All right. All right, let's walk down McDonald Avenue for a little bit. Let's get a sense of the neighborhood. And then we will come back to this, kind of to this spot we're at already. So this is Avenue U right here. If you look up this incident on newspaper articles or wherever, it always says the intersection of Avenue U and McDonald Avenue. Well, that's not exactly true. It's close enough, but it's not exactly true. If you wanted to really get the spot, you'd have to investigate a little more. That's what I did. But for now, let's make our way back to where we came from. I think it's a little less noisy, although maybe not. We're not going too far. We're going to be looking at the property across the street, ladies and gentlemen. If you see where it says dry cleaners, right over there in that corner, that's the address of 2284 McDonald Avenue. And you know, it's not clear whether it was that corner or the address on the side, which we'll go to now, had the 2284 address as well. So it could have been on the side there in the cut, the actual club, or it could have been on the corner. Let's go across the street and take a better look at it. $22.84. $22.84. This is the side address I was just speaking of. So let's get to the in-depth details now. Okay. So on that day of January 7th, 92, as many of you know, especially since if you listen to the piece before this, you had Scarpa, Mazza, and Del Masto cruising around this neighborhood. Now, they were parked over here. This is called Village Road, right here, Village Road North. And they're scoping out this spot. Now, it's not clear to me if they were on the other side of Village Road, over there where we came from, or right here on this side, scoping it out. However, in the book, Larry goes into a little more details. He says that they are scoping out the club, which is on the corner there, and they see Nikki Black's Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, he makes mention of him stopping across the street at a car service. So imagine that if they were parked on this side, they would get a clear view of that. On the other side, they might not have gotten the best view of that. But there was a car service over there, located at 2279 McDonald Avenue. And I'm gonna put a picture of that car service up. I'll zoom in. If you see where that worker is across the street, next door to that, where that gate is down, that's where the car service was. And I'm gonna put a picture of that up. So they spot the car. He apparently drives across the street to the car service and stops there for a minute. Apparently he had a piece of that car service. So he goes this way. And they're gonna pull up and they're gonna follow him. He makes the left here on McDonald. So he makes the left here on McDonald Avenue. And they're trailing behind him. As you know, they got a police siren in the front. They got their coffees up on there and they're trying to look like law enforcement, basically. So to Avenue U and make a left. So as Mazza talks about, they make a left over here in Avenue U. He also mentioned something else when he makes the left here, that he goes all the way down this way past what is Lake Street over here. And Mazza thinks that he's gonna turn over here on Lake Street, but what happens is he keeps going. So they keep driving their cars this way, right? Driving. And what's gonna happen is they're gonna pass this triangle right here. Where I'm walking right now is a triangle. It's called Lady Moody Square. It's not exactly a square though, it's a triangle. So they come here and they're gonna wrap around this triangle and make this left around here. First, let's look at this memorial, Gravesend Veterans Memorial, right here. Very nice. So they're gonna come this way and they're going to make this left around this triangle. And they're gonna end up back on this side to where they initially saw Nikki Black in his Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, before this happened, in front of the club up ahead at 2284 that we visited, about a month before this happened, there was another incident over here. Now, Nikki Black's nephew, Joe Tolino, who was in the Land Cruiser that night he got shot, he's gonna get injured in a shootout right in front of this club down here. And Genovese mobster Gaetano Amato, 78 years old, would become a casualty in this Colombo war. Wrong place at the wrong time. Should not have been hanging around here during a war, which is what apparently all the families had warned them about. So he became a casualty of this war. 78-year-old Gaetano Amato and Joe Tolino is shot and injured. And then fast forward to January 7th, when they come around this triangle, after following Nikki Black from McDonald's, he's coming back around once again to where he was. And then we're gonna show you exactly where that happened. And I'm gonna put up a photo too, so you guys can get an idea. So usually when, oh, look at these abandoned houses here. Usually when you see the photo of the hit, it's a night photo. I'll put that photo up now. It's a night photo. That's the most popular image used. And there's a detective looking in the car, who I believe is Detective Joe Coffey. I'm pretty sure that's Joe Coffey. At that point, he would have been exclusively working for the Organized Crime Control Bureau. That was kind of his gig. So I'm pretty sure that's who that is. And there's a very graphic photo of the way Nikki Black looked after the shooting. I'm not gonna put it up because I don't want to get demonetized, who knows, but I want you to look this way. Now I'm going to put up a photo, a daytime photo, which I assume would have been the first photo taken when the blue and white cops came here, before like the organized crime officers got here and everything else. And I'm going to show you a photo taken from this direction. And I want you to look all the way down there at that corner building. You could see that building on the corner, and you could see to the left how that building next to it kind of protrudes out. So they're not exactly lined up together. Right back there where that truck is. And I'm going to put the photo up of the scene, and you can tell based on the photo that I put up that this was the spot that Nikki Black pulled over at with his nephew Joe Tolino in the passenger seat. Greg Scarpa, Larry Mazza, and DeMasto would pull up next to him right here. Scarpa, becoming clumsy with AIDS, his body sick and ravaged, would accidentally release the clips from his gun, leaving Mazza to do the job. He would pull out his shotgun after pulling up right here. And according to what he says, he would place the shotgun within 6 inches of Nikki Black's head, because he had not looked at them in the car. And the popular notion is that Nikki Black, along with his nephew Joseph Tolino, had assumed they were in fact cops and decided they were just going to look straight. Maybe the cops wouldn't mess with them, and if they did, you know, they'd just pretend that they don't see him. So they would pull up here. Nikki Grancio would be here. Mazza would essentially pull the trigger of the shotgun and blast out the back of his head. Right here. On Lake Road North. Right here. And I'll put that photo up again that I put up before. Sorry to get nerdy with the locations and the photos. I always like to pinpoint exactly where these things happened. So right here on Lake Road North by the social club located at 2284 Donald Avenue. Let's get a look at the whole block. So I know this is good for people, you know, in other states, especially people around the world that want to see these locations because they hear about these hits and they hear about this organized crime stuff. So, you know, if I could bring you to these spots and kind of show you the neighborhood and show you where these things happen, you know, to me, that's awesome. I hope you have enjoyed this so far. Let's get another look at the area. Right over there is Avenue U. Once again, if you look in the papers, it often says that this happened at the intersection of McDonald Avenue and Avenue U. Not exactly true, but close enough. It happened right here. Right here. Powerful Teamsters, labor racketeer, Nikki Black, Grancio, would lose his life right here, January 7th, 1992. During the Colombo War. Now, while we're here, let's get a bonus location. And we're gonna have to go this way to get that location. Gravesend, Brooklyn. All right. So, just right over here on the corner here, we'll go show you a little bonus spot. Since we're here, might as well, right? All right. Hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. Hope you enjoyed the little documentary beforehand, learning about local 707 and all of Nikki Black's doings. He's not often discussed. I mean, this is like the part of his story that is discussed in, like, you know, short clips of Mazza or whoever. I think Sammy spoke about it, but who was he exactly? It's not something that's often discussed. Thankfully, I was able to do so for you. Get a little bit about what he was doing, what he was involved in, and ultimately why he came to his demise. All right, so let's go this way over here to the address of 246 Avenue U. Right here, 246 Avenue U, where it says Center for Paralegal Services. It's actually counts for both of these addresses, right here. This is the location of the former Mother Cabrini Social Club, which was Frank Lino's social club, the Banana Mobster, right here in Gravesend. You know, you would have had guys like Tommy Karate Patera hanging out here for sure at that time. He was under Lino at one point, so he would have been hanging out here. I know you guys definitely like to hear about him. And also, when the night that Eddie Lino was killed, it's often said that he leaves a social club. Now, in the book by Tommy Dades and Becky Yohn, about the mafia cops. They talked about him leaving the Mother Cabrini Social Club, which would have been right here. And in about 15 or 20 minutes or so, Eddie Lino would take his last breath on the side of Shore Parkway when the mafia cops, Louis Ippolito and Stephen Caracappa, executed him. So just the bonus footage here. 246 Avenue U, former site of the Mother Cabrini Social Club, Frankie Lino Social Club. Now, on that same site that I referenced before, Cosa Nostra News, they had claimed that a source told them that at the time that Nikki Black was murdered up the block where I just showed you, he was renting this place out and using this as a social club as well. I cannot verify how true that is. They're getting that from a source, so I thought I would just put that little information in there for you. All right, so let's get a look over here one more time. We'll go this way. We'll get one more view of the block, and then we'll call it a day. Hope everybody had fun. Mr. Softy's hanging out. He's right here. So let's get one more look at Lake Road. All right, it was a pleasure to bring everybody here. Show you where this event took place. I hope everybody has a great week. Please remember to like, subscribe. You could hit the notification bell if you want to get notified immediately when I upload something. If you want to donate to the channel, there is a Cash App on my profile. You could also send what's called a super thanks, which is something, if you're watching this video after it premieres, you'll see that by the description. Of course, donations are not required to watch my channel. If you sub, if you like, I will love you just the same. So, everybody, have a great week.